Welcome to another episode of Memory Card, Nerd Initiative's retro and nostalgia video game conversation show. I'm your host, Cody, and as always, I'm joined by a guest. This time, my guest is one of my good buddies, one of my good in real life friends. We've got Ed. How's it going, dude?
What's up, buddy? How you doing?
I don't know. Maybe I met Ed a long time ago. We actually met online playing video games, so I haven't known him for too long. But ever since I'm
Good pandemic friends.
Pandemic friends, yeah, dude, absolutely. Which I think we've talked about in a past episode. I talked about how I made so many friends during the pandemic times. But Ed, I gotta ask you, dude. Let's just jump right into it. So I sent you the questionnaire. You know all about it.
Yeah.
And I asked you what your first video game console was. Why don't you tell me about it?
So my first console, I remember vividly because I had played some of my cousins. They had like the Wii, at family Christmas, but I really, really wanted one really bad. And my grandmother and my little sibling Hex brought me a GameCube for, I think it was like my 7th or 8th birthday, and it came with Star Wars Rogue Squadrons 2 and Mario Party 4, I think it was, and it was just, two young siblings playing Mario Party together at that age. I mean, we were pretty brutal when it came to the mini games, but yeah.
Nice, dude. So let me ask you this, right?
Yeah.
When you look back at the GameCube, what was your favorite part about the GameCube? It could be any part of it, right? Like you're a big fan of the controller, the actual console.
The controller for Smash just felt different, like just playing Smash or any of the Nintendo branded games. But I think, and this was like a third party accessory that was part of the GameCube, but I had this old rocking chair. It was like one of those floor chairs with the built-in speakers on it that you could hook up the audio visual output from the GameCube. So I ran like this, I want to say 8-foot long cable into that chair. And I would sit and I could feel, because I play a lot of Star Wars Squadrons, and I could feel the sound out of the chair. It's like just being able to do shit like that was super fun.
Dude, that is so funny, right? Because I think everybody, every gamer from that like kind of generation, I feel like their parents bought them one of those rocking.
It was like it was like the $60 chair you got from Walmart or however much it was. But I remember that was like a Christmas present one year, and I was so stoked. And so many like mornings before school, because our school started at 7:30. So when I was middle school, it was like started 7:30. Bus would come till 7 to pick me up. So I had from like 5:30 to 6:45 in the morning before I had to go to the bus stop to just play games and sit in that friggin' thing. And I ended up being late to school a couple times and missing the bus, but like worth it.
Nice, dude. I'm trying to think too. So the games you mentioned, Star Wars Squadron and Mario Party 4, and then you mentioned Smash Bros as well. What were some like GameCube games, if you can remember, that you loved to play?
That was pretty much. I grew up fairly poor, and so this was a pretty big expense for the family. And so it was really just those four for a long time. I got Smash Brothers Melee at a garage sale.
Nice.
One of my brother's autistic, and one of his caretakers would, on the days that my mom had to go to work and Nathan was off at school, she would take us out and we'd do different things. So one Sunday, we got to go and do yard sailing, and I haggled this guy as like this little kid, being like, "Do you want me to like mow your lawn or anything? Like, because I only had so much." But he ended up, I think mowing or sweeping his front porch, and then giving him like $10. And I got Smash Bros Melee for the GameCube, and then one of those extra memory cards too, which came in clutch.
Right.
But
nice,
those are the major tenets. And now, obviously, that was the family console. It wasn't just mine. So we got, I think the following year, the year after, we got Mario Party 6, which was like a whole new set of mini games and a whole new thing to argue over.
Yeah, I mean, so like the thing about Mario Parties, right? I mean, like you can only play them for so long, right? Before that Mario Party, like you played all the mini games so many times, you've done all the maps they've got. It's kind of, you got to get the new
My
one.
girlfriend and her sister actually are playing through the Mario Party, the one for the Switch, like the compendium, and they're trying to get all the maps and all the unlocks. And so like every time we play now as a group, we're always getting frustrated that we're running to the same friggin' mini games over and over and over.
Yeah, dude. Well, so you went from GameCube.
Yeah.
What were like your next couple of video game consoles? Because I know nowadays you're mostly like a PC gamer. I think that's probably fair to
Yeah.
say. So yeah, I was just
My
curious what like your other consoles were, like your
Yeah,
other
I
ones.
did the GameCube for a while, and then when I was about, I must have been 12, because the original Gears of War had just come out,
Right.
and I think it was like the year after that. It was the Xbox 360 arcade from like January 22nd, which is when my birthday was, throughout the entire year. Wanted the 360 arcade. I saved up for it. I wanted it so bad. Wanted it so bad. Wanted it so bad. Um, and I had a true Christmas story moment, right? Because I didn't quite save up enough for it. I was like, oh, well, maybe next year. And I still was at that age where I kind of believed in Santa Claus, kind of didn't. And I desperately wanted, the Xbox 360 arcade, because it came with all these games and a couple other things. And we opened all the presents, and we're going through, and I'm feeling a little disheartened that the one thing that Santa was supposed to bring me, which was the 360 arcade, wasn't there. And I don't know if it was my mother or my grandmother, but I was out of the room, and one of them snuck in the last present behind the tree. And I came back and was like, oh, Ned, my nickname when I was little. I was like, oh, there's one behind the tree there. And I opened it up, and I was elated. It was just, I sat in my PJs all day playing the original Gears of War, which at that age should not have been doing. That was a purchase of my grandmother that was just like, oh, this looks fun, but maturity rating was something that went right over her head. So
dude, it's always the the parents. As a parent, like you can try as hard as you can to make sure your kid like doesn't interact with anything mature, like 18 plus.
Yeah,
dude, the grandparents don't care, man. The grandparents
no, not at all.
They'll just get you whatever.
I wanted an airsoft gun when I was little, was not allowed to own one, but I was allowed to saw these alien creatures in half with a chainsaw.
Yeah, because
totally fine.
Especially since you said that you were right around the age where you kind of still believe in Santa. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Gears of War is just totally.
Oh, that's like 10-year-old action porn. That's just like everything. Marcus, just beefy power armor, chainsaw with a machine gun attached to it. Like, yeah, absolutely.
So we're talking about you had this Christmas memory, right? It's so funny because I'm starting to realize like how similar we are, because I had a same type of thing where my parents they hid a Wii from me, right? So they hid a Wii in a giant box like filled with like a bunch of accessories and games in the closet. And this was like the year that everybody had to have a Wii. It was like
2007 Thanksgiving. Yeah. Like everyone and their brother had one.
Absolutely, yeah. So that was like the big present that I was looking forward to, and didn't get it. But then my parents said, "Oh, have you checked the closet?" I'm like, "What? Why would I check the closet?" And then lo and behold, it's got a Wii with all the different accessories. The Wii because the Wiimote, you could attach like whatever you want to the Wiimote. So you got like like a plastic like golf putter, or you got like a plastic tennis racket or whatever it was. So yeah, dude, that was a ton of fun. I thought Christmas was over and I had a ton more stuff to
just totally missed it.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Really appreciate the parents for doing that one. That's
yeah, no, absolutely. They definitely worked hard for it.
Yeah, dude.
My cousin got the Wii it was like because they were in high school and they saved up their the couple of brothers there, they saved up their money and picked one up, and so we had that. Everyone and their brother was playing Wii Sports around like New Year's holiday, because my family used to have these big New Year's parties with like a bunch of family friends. It was like 70 people. And we were just doing like Wii Sport tournaments all day on the little CRTV in the living room.
Nice. Yeah, I don't know, man. That era was so crazy because that's like the last time I can remember my mom even like sort of getting into games, right? So like just seeing my mom like do Wii Sports boxing, like this little Asian woman just like punching. Or like
when the Wii Fit came out.
Okay.
And then everyone was like, "Oh, I'm gonna hop on this. I'm gonna hop on it, and I'm gonna get healthy and stuff." And then the parents drop it, and the kids just use it to play, to break the flat screen TV with the hand strap.
Exactly. All right, man. Yeah. So you mentioned Gears of War and your experience with the Xbox 360. I think that's a perfect segue, dude. Because tell me about this video game franchise you love. It's Halo, right? So
yeah, Halo Combat Evolved. I distinctly remember my first experience with it. I was maybe like 5, and I was over at my cousin's house, and my aunt and my aunt and my mom were talking about something, and I walked upstairs, and shout out to Jacob and Mitchell. They'll probably never see this, but whatever. They were in like 8th grade, early, like maybe ninth grade at the time. So I'm like, they're humoring me by letting me hang out with them, and they had gotten, this was like 2001, they had gotten the original Xbox, and they bought Halo with it, and so I just wanted to see what they were doing, and I'd sort of just sit and like kind of watch, and then they gave me a controller, and they'd have fun mowing me down in the Warthog and just like splattering me all over blood gulps left and right. And then when I finally got like, I think 6 or 7, I finally convinced my mom to let me get a copy of it from Staples. Because I had said it was like $25, it was on sale. We went to go pick up office supplies, and so I picked up my copy for the PC. And between going over to my aunt and uncle's house to play with them, and then playing on my own, that was like the first game that I really like sunk my teeth into lore wise. And I spent so many hours because I was convinced that I had to beat it on Legendary. And I was a kid, and I needed the hardest difficulty. I'm still that way. Like, hardest difficulty, gotta beat it, gotta play it through. And I think it took me forever to actually do that, but I must have been like in 4th or 5th grade when I finally beat it all the way. And I felt like such a badass walking into school that morning because I was like, I just beat Halo on Legendary. That was so cool. And then sure enough, Halo 2 comes out, and I sink my teeth into that because my cousin gets it again. And I went over after school, and we'd play the campaign together, and we'd skull hunt and all that stuff. It was a lot of fun.
What is it about? So you mentioned like a little bit about like the lore and stuff, but just curious, like what is it about Halo that's like the thing for you? You know what I mean?
I've always been, a sci-fi nerd. My dad saw the original Star Wars. And he has the tickets in his office or somewhere in his office filed away, but he had seen it at least 60 or so times.
Wow.
When it first came out. So like, growing up, my parents were split. And so every time we would go over to my dad's house, we would, do fun things from his past. And so we'd watch movies, or he'd kind of shared that side of him. I definitely, along with my sister and my siblings, got that nerdy side from the Addams family.
Okay.
And so I was always kind of interested in Star Wars, always really fascinated by it. But then when I stuck my teeth into Halo, there's something about like the based in realism, like nitty gritty, humanity's last stand against this big threat, and everyone. So it's just like this feel good kind of story about this super soldier that in the first game, and even the designers of even Bungie Studios said this, like John, Spartan 117 didn't talk,
right?
Because they wanted whoever was playing it to feel that role. And so I think there was like a huge kind of emotional connection there too. Just like, I am the Master Chief, and I am like, this badass super soldier that can do it all. And like, playing those games, and then kind of, diving more into the lore and reading about it. And then, my older brother, Justin, and I have a copy somewhere in my library, but after that game came out, they came out with a series of books on it. And I remember reading that book too when I was little. It's basically just the first game in narrative fashion, and that's what kind of drug me down the rabbit hole of browsing through Machinima and falling in love with Red versus Blue and all these other different early 2000s, mid 2000s YouTube channels of just people doing breakdowns of Dr. Halsey's experiments and stuff like that. It was just something fantastical to kind of sink my teeth into.
So you quickly mentioned like Halo books, right? And
yeah,
that's something that I always found so fascinating. That like other video game franchises, even if they have, like pretty deep lore, they don't even compare to the amount of extra supplemental lore that Halo has had, like all the different books and stuff. So
the
I always found that
expanded universe is crazy. Yeah. There's the Cole Protocol is a great book. Like they're all questions. By great book, I mean like it's a good, fun read.
Right.
It's on the quality of writing like Twilight. Like it's one of those like, oh, it's a shitty YA novel that's like uses ridiculous scientific terms, and you feel kind of silly for reading it sometimes. But man, it's just a cool story, and the further you get into it, the further it sinks your teeth into it, and it's just a cycle.
Yeah, man. So let me ask you this, right? I think every Halo fan has like their favorite game. I'm curious what your favorite game is out of the whole series. I'm trying to think. There's like the main series, and then there's like a couple spin-offs. But yeah, so I was just curious what your favorite Halo game was out of the whole lot.
I love the Halo 2 time period just because of the largely because of the nostalgic memories, and also like that's where like the story really gets set up.
Right.
You know, like the invasion of Earth, the falling of the the orbital stations, the fact that kind of stumbled on, and then suddenly you have the Arbiter and Master Chief kind of working together. That story in and of itself was awesome, but specifically, I was so excited when ODST came out.
Okay.
That's
a prequel, right?
It's like a middle. It was a prequel to Halo 3.
Okay.
So this was like their engine test game where they had finished the engine. They didn't really have the full story because that's the Halo 3 was supposed to be the end, right? Like that was going to be the big finish the fight. But they did ODST to like test the waters and see how they could try out some of these mechanics, and it kind of went over in like the larger crowd, but I fell in love with the promotional stuff, and it sent me down a deep rabbit hole of my own personal journey with my attachment to like military stuff as well. But ODST itself is just a great story, really fun, really powerful plot, especially because I knew exactly how it had to tie in to the end game, because I already played Halo 2. I knew how it had to end, so I was curious to see like this different perspective that we hadn't seen before. Kind of the same way they did Reach, right? Where they had like this prequel set before the fall of Reach, and we got to see the fall of Sword Base and the fall of the planet and the setup for the first Combat Evolved. So it's just like those two games in particular, Reach and ODST, those prequels where they take a sidestep from the main story and really just give you a lot of time to focus on it. So much fun.
So in terms of like how the series has, I don't know, gone on these last couple of years, like have you been keeping up to date with like the series and playing like the newest
I have
Infinite, I think.
Yeah, I haven't. I played the multiplayer when that came out because it was free to play,
right?
And I have kept up with it to a degree as far as the lore goes. But I'm at the point now where the things I'm looking for in games and the things I'm looking to spend my time on don't really mesh with what they're providing. Like Guardians was fun, but it had some mechanics, and it just felt like I was happy with the game ending at 3.
Yeah.
And then they proceeded to 4, and I was happy with kind of how 4 went, and then Guardians happened, and that was like the start of where I was like, all right, well, are they just kind of extending this out, drawing this out? Like I kind of wish they would have just let it sit, and then maybe done like a revision or like a side story, explored some of these other avenues they could have. But I have been keeping up with the story wise, but I haven't really been playing them. So I'll watch playthroughs, I'll watch streamers or YouTubers play through them, and like I'll watch lore videos. And I just read First Strike, which is like a series that takes place inside. It's between between Fall of Reach and Halo 2's start. So that kind of bridges that gap. Set like as a third party separate from Master Chief's main storyline. So I do like still engage with the franchise, but not as much as a player anymore, as more of like a enjoyer.
Yeah, man, I definitely feel for Halo fans, because it must be a little frustrating when you have this deep appreciation for the first couple of games and they're just not delivering with probably what most fans would want. Hopefully it's a series that can get back on its feet and keep killing it, because it's such an important game to so many people and like to Xbox as a whole. So yeah, hopefully.
And no hate to 343 at all. They did a fantastic job with everything they've done with that game. But it's just like hitting a movie just right, or hitting that book the first time just right, and Bungie just knocked it out of the park. And then to add on to that, just felt like it could never live up to the original. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But either way, still incredible games, great studio, great development, just fun games to play.
So a little bit of a segue, right? So I asked you what maybe like your first game was, and initially you told me Halo Combat Evolved, but then when you found out you were talking about it in the franchise part, you decided to pick a different game. So I don't know, man. Tell me a little bit about Alien Isolation, man.
Yeah, so that game is something that I kind of ran into on a whim in college, right? I'm a big scaredy cat. I can't do scary movies. I can, but like I get freaked out. My girlfriend and her family loves them. So I'm like, I bought Outlast when I was like, oh, this is going to be such a cool game. And then I got to the sewers and I stopped playing because I was too scared. But Alien is something that, like my dad being a huge cinematic fan, loved the original movies, showed them to us when we were very young. Absolutely fell in love with Sigourney Weaver's character. Ellen Ripley was just awesome portrayal. And then I kind of stumbled onto a YouTube video one day, before my freshman year or during my freshman year, of this example of how they were using AI, or they were using deep learning for the alien to adapt to your gameplay.
Right.
And it was like this 12-minute E3 gameplay footage of the alien stalking you around, and if you hide in a certain location, it's going to start looking at those locations. And they explained all the science behind it. It's like, oh, that looks terrifying. I'm in. I don't know what possessed me to do that, but I jumped into the story, and I was playing it one night in the common room because I had my side story. My freshman year roommate was quite a character. Just awful. I couldn't be in the room. The smell was really bad. It was just didn't shower a lot. It was just not a pleasant time. Played a lot of games in the common room. Did a lot of homework in the common room. And my best buddy Matt Egan, one of my really good friends still, came by and was like, "Yo, what are you playing?" Because we were, this is like October now, so we're kind of all getting to be friends. And I was like, "Oh, I'm playing this game called Alien Isolation." He's like, "Oh, this looks sick." And so he sat with me for a bit. And then my other buddy, really close friend Jack Houts, he came by, sat down, and was like, "Oh, what are you playing?" And I was like, "Oh, showed him." And he was like, not a gamer at all. This guy's a forestry, big shit hit guy, and I love him to death. But he's like, "I'm just going to sit back and watch." And so they fill up their little soda cans with Jim Beam, and now we bring a TV in, we hook it up, and then next thing you know, it's me, Matt, Jack, and like 5 or 6 other people from the floor, all just playing this utterly horrifying game, going through the story. And we did that as a big group playing through, and then I beat the story all together. It was like a big communal event, but like the combination of the story kind of exiting and then re-entering the larger franchise and setting up the other movies, to the gameplay mechanics of crafting and having to use like puzzle solving, kind of like Portal, but it was just, and having to outsmart the other creatures and humans and robots. It was just, what a fun game.
Yeah, that's it's definitely a favorite of mine. I can't beat it though because I'm just too scared. But we did cover it for like an 80% thing, and yeah, it was a lot of fun running through that. I'm a huge fan of the Alien franchise, like sounds like you are. So yeah, I think they totally nailed it. I'm waiting for another one. Is there another Alien Isolation?
I really hope so. I haven't heard anything about it, but I feel like they absolutely could do something fun with that style mechanic. But at the same time, they hit it and they quit it. If they want to take a step back, it's fine. Like, it's a great game. My girlfriend, who's love her to death, she's not much of a gamer, at least wasn't before meeting me. I over all of last year, or yeah, it was like last year or so, when she'd come home from college, because she was doing her last year at school, we'd sit down in my house and we'd play through the game for like 30 to 40 minutes, and then we'd bounce off and we did the whole story. That was like, I made her do that. I wasn't like playing the game.
Oh,
and then,
she was playing?
She was watching. That was totally on her. We put it on story difficulty, and she just had, and watching her get jump scared and freak out and move the controls, and then slowly get the hang of how to move and how to look. I was like, oh, like this is great. And so now we're actually playing Dying Light as a group, and it's both of us. And then next game is going to be Horizon Zero Dawn. So
nice. Yeah,
that's a game that I haven't played yet too. So I'm excited to experience it for the first time with her as well.
Yeah, so I mean, it sounds like she's just rocking and rolling after playing Alien Isolation. That's awesome.
Yeah,
that probably makes sense too. Like, if you're gonna introduce someone to like camera mechanics and like moving in like a third person, maybe survival horror is like probably one of the best ways to do it, because you can just figure it out in like the starting area or whatever. You don't have to.
There's no real pressure.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Yeah,
right.
And the only pressure is like you're just getting scared shitless. And I mean that game in particular I like because of the atmosphere naturally. And if you go into that game not knowing anything, they really take their time putting you in the setting,
right, and
getting you, a hinge opens and falls, and the audio and sound design is so great that you actually you turn and jump, and it's a wild game. And it's so fun, in fact, that my sophomore year, when the Xbox Kinect was a really, still kind of a big thing, my buddy Matt wanted to do a replay through because we met a new guy, Mike, our sophomore year as RAs, who hadn't played that game. And Matt wanted to play through it with him. And the Kinect, you could actually hook up to detect sound in the room. So if you wanted to talk or whisper, you had to whisper.
Or else the alien would. Okay, I got
Or
you.
else the alien would hear you. So like, Mike being a scaredy cat would and alien would find you guys immediately.
Makes it like 10 times worse.
Oh, it makes it so much worse.
Nice, dude. That's cool. Yeah, I had no idea about the Kinect hookup. That's pretty funny. That's actually like a good use of the Kinect. I think. I mean, I feel like most of the implementations of like the Kinect, doesn't really go over too well. But that's pretty cool. And the
well, that was also like one of the first games that was early VR too. That was like they had early VR support for like Oculus wasn't even a company fully yet. They were still in the kickstarting stage. Like, I think they had like the dev kit too.
Gotcha.
And we managed to get a hold of one of those, and it didn't work super natively. You had to go into one of the notepad files and like change a variable to get it to map. But I hopped into I have my Oculus over there. I hopped into it on VR not terribly long ago, and still holds up.
Nice.
Still holds up.
And by that you mean it's still very scary, right?
I mean, they updated it. It looks great on VR, and holy crap, yeah, terrifying.
Nice, dude. That's awesome. I mean, so listen, I love you telling us about all these different memories, man. You talking about hanging out, making college friends freshman year in the common room. Why don't you tell me a little bit about this other video game memory that you have? So you wrote about. So you mentioned earlier how you got your copy of Halo at Staples, but then you're talking about the first time you beat Star Wars Rogue Squadron 2 on the GameCube.
I was violently ill one day when I was a kid, and I was just like, did not feel good, headache, blinds drawn, didn't want to get out of bed. And I had my GameCube, I had my TV cabinet in the corner, and I had the family CRT is in my room. Because we had like a small like little TV for the kitchen for like my mom and stuff, but like the TV that all the kids used was in my bedroom. So my mom's at work. I'm old enough to kind of take care of myself to a degree. I'm just playing the game, and I don't know how many hours of that day I spent just trying to get through the Death Star and just trying to do the trench run. And it's like one of the first missions. So it was my first time that I actually really got to sit down and like not play the free play, like just like going through all the missions and stuff, but just like sitting down and playing it sequentially. And oh man, what like doing the trench run and finally hitting that, sinking that shot at the end and pulling out was so satisfying. That whole game in of itself is absolutely iconic, and it was so much fun. But that was like the first real sense of pride and accomplishment that I had as a kid. I'm like, this is my game. I'm the only one that plays this. I finally beat it. This is sick.
Nice,
Darth
man.
Sidious can suck it.
Yeah, no, that's sick, dude. That's awesome. That's awesome, man. Listen, all right. As we're closing out here, right? We're almost at the 30-minute mark. Tell me about another video game memory. I don't want to put you on the spot, but you got another one just off the top of your head, dude? Off the top of my head?
Yeah, actually. This is it's a little bit more personal. I mean, like, I got my PC when I had a laptop in college, and then I got my PC that broke, and then I got my first ever tower when I was my senior year of college. And I, started playing, PUBG like everyone did then. And I had that tower until COVID hit. And then once COVID hit, I really kind of started getting back into games again.
Yeah.
And when I remember distinctly when Valorant came out, I was like, and this is a pretty recent memory, but Valorant came out, I was like, I can see myself sinking my teeth into this. And something about that game just like fully enraptured me. And I think it was the community that we had, because I don't know if you've exactly mentioned this on the podcast, but I mean, all the Black Bears, the 20 or so gang of guys just sitting in the VC, doing up random queues and like all trying to get into the beta and then playing the hell out of it. Like that community, especially if there's such like a hard time, was so cool to have. And thank you for being a part of that. But yeah, that's like the one that I definitely want to make sure I'm mentioning is like,
yeah, dude,
the bringing us all together was so much fun.
Yeah, especially you mentioned like the hard time too. Yeah, I mean, just like a way to forget about what's going on, and this new hot game comes out. It's Riot's like second game ever, right, or whatever.
Yeah.
Or I guess maybe the chess game they've got, the Auto Battler, but
that kind of came out at the same time ish. But like it was like this is their whole second IP, and it was like
Yeah, man.
You know, we both played CS when we were younger in high school, and like we did that. But like this was like a, you know, hit the ground kind of running, and
Exactly.
I fully fell into the whole social aspect of like trying to beat each other's ranks and, you know, grinding up. It was just fun to like feel revamped and re-energized again, like we did when we were younger.
Yeah, dude. Those early Valorant days are something I'll remember for a while. So yeah. But listen, Ed, thank you so much for coming on to Memory Card, a retro nostalgia video game conversation show, presented to you by the Nerd Initiative. Go support the good folks over at the Nerd Initiative. Check out their website and their YouTube channel.
Say that 3 times fast.
I can't. I can't. It takes so much concentration.
Go check them out. I've checked them out too. They got some good stuff.
Yeah, dude. So thanks for coming on. Ed, do you got anything to promote, dude? I don't know. You got anything cooking? Anything?
Nothing on. You know what? I'll plug my girlfriend's art.
Oh,
totally.
Dude,
side note from that. DelaneyCburns.com. Go check it out. She's got some really, really cool art up there, and she's trying to figure out what to sell it for. So if you're interested in some fine art and some really cool prints, go check that out. Her most recent series is on, you know, reproductive rights and unreliable historians as far as, you know, the way women have been treated in history. So definitely go check that out. Drop a follow on her associated Instagram page too. And then I'll also shout out my other buddy, Greg Biot's TikTok.
Oh, nice.
I'm not allowed to give any because he doesn't add any hashtags. It wants to be found naturally. Yeah. But if you find Greg Biot on TikTok, you see a really strange looking dude with a mustache. That's your guy.
I'll have Greg on soon.
Greg's got to come onto this because he's got some funny.
Yeah, dude. I love Greg. Nah, man. Yeah. So, you know, definitely check out Delaney Burns art. That'll be in the description. And then, like you said,
DelaneyCburns.com. Yeah.
Yeah, dude. Definitely check out that link. I'll put her Instagram down below too. I can do whatever I want, Sweet. Man. It's my show.
Hell yeah.
And then yeah. I'm not gonna put Greg's link. You're just gonna have to find it naturally.
Yeah. No. You gotta find it. Go hunt for it. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks again, Ed, for coming on. That's been
absolutely.